All righty, we're just jumping right into it here. Howdy there, internet people. What's going on? Stochastic fans, we have 7 games here for a little MLB action. We've got all-day baseball. Really, there's 3 slates today. There's the kind of the main one, which is 7 games. There's a nice little 4 or 5 gamer at 2 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock. There is another set of games. And then we have nighttime baseball. We've got college football kicking off right now. Rare Sunday appearance. And we are now officially 1 week away from the NFL. Matt, how is it going? Are you ready for the Cleveland Browns? The factory of sadness? Factory of sorrow? I always forget what it is. But
it's so funny. Like, old times Browns fans are so just like, they're forever depressed, I feel like. No matter what happens, the Browns left when I was younger, now we're back. So it's such a weird dynamic. I'm not one of those, like, the Browns are going to be amazing every year. I really like their chances this year, though, if Watson – it all comes down to Watson. I mean, everyone knows it. If he can show that he's the old Watson, I love our roster. I think we have one of the better rosters in football. I'm excited, but the Browns let down in the past. So – to be honest, there was a time, and then we can talk about the slate, when we had like Hugh Jackson as coach. Browns weren't even competitive. Like, it wasn't even something to look forward to watch. At least now, even if they might be worse than I think they'll be, they're competitive, and it makes, for something to look forward to. So at least I have that.
It is always nice, having lived through many years of bad Seahawk teams.
Yeah, you get it. And like, you're now in a place with the Seahawks where like they're pretty much competitive every year.
Yes, that was the Russell Wilson era was quite nice for those of us that lived through Cortez Kennedy winning the Defensive Player of the Year on a 2-14 team.
He was nasty.
He was beloved in Seattle.
Him and John Randall.
Oh, good times. Good times. There's some ancient names there. But Reggie White, let's get into the fun here. Switching gears, getting back to baseball here. I just launched a tweet so you guys would all so we would gather even more friends here. But check us out here. Hit that like button. Always helpful. Mama Mac's going to be watching the show a little later because she always likes to see what's going on. She says, no idea what you're talking about, but it always seems like you guys are having fun. So hi, Mom. I will give you a call later, I'm sure. We have 89,100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Pretty cool. Like to see us get over get that extra 1,000, get us to 90,000 by NFL Week 1. We'll see what happens with that. But we got 7 games today. We'll talk about those. No real weather issues, which is rather nice. We've got content and tools already up for the late games, so you guys can check that out there. And of course, the free article, Spotlighters Top Stacks, is launched and on the front page. But let's slide on into here a global look at our slate today. So Yahoo is doing a 4 o'clock main slate. The other 2 sites reached forward to grab this 105 game. The Philadelphia Phillies and Milwaukee Brewers. You've got a couple of lefties, Ranger Suarez, Wade Miley on the mound. They typically don't spontaneously combust on the mound, but each team has close to a 5 implied run total here. I was thinking I may just skip this game, but what are you seeing in this one that could get us a little bit of love? Because I don't foresee a lot of extra base hits from either side.
Yeah. At first, I thought you were going to talk about the slate globally. So, which game did you bring up?
Well, I was, and then I wandered back. But my global thought on this is I was thinking about skipping the 105 game.
Oh,
what redeeming qualities are in here that would make that a bad idea?
I like Philly a lot here.
Okay.
Outside of Boston, like Boston looks like they're the top stack on the board. They're coming in with leverage right now, but they're the highest owned team on the board. Philly looks like the team to go to if you want to be contrarian. 10% chance to be in the top stack on the board, 3rd overall, only getting 5% ownership. Like, they're coming in low owned because they're expensive up and down. People don't want to use the bottom of their lineup. I like Philly here. Again, there's other offenses to go to. You don't have to use Philly, but I do like Philly here.
All right. Wade Miley, he's a perfectly good MLB pitcher, right? Keeps his team in
Yeah.
games. Doesn't give up a ton of home runs. Usually keeps the bases clean. Ranger Suarez developed into, let's say, maybe a poor man's Martin Perez, the lefty that induces a lot of ground balls. He tends to allow more gap power than anything else. I'm not enthralled. I may not even build lineups just so I can say, yeah, I'm skipping this first game. We shall see.
So a couple things on that. One, Suarez has actually been good this year. And when I first looked at this slate, I liked him a lot. He's just, as it came out this morning, on an unspecified pitch count. So too much risk there. It's a good matchup against Milwaukee. They've been a little better against lefties since the trade deadline, adding Marcana, who's leading off today, but nothing you're scared about. And for me, yeah, I agree with you about Wade Miley. It's not like, oh, I look at Miley and I have to pick on him. It's more Philly's really good and they're not getting love. That's what it is. So I completely get why you wouldn't be forcing them in. I already built lineups and I played some Philly, but if I hadn't and was scrambling, I certainly wouldn't be just forcing them in.
Let's see. We do have all the lineups. So all right, well maybe I'll build some. I wasn't entirely sure we would, but here we are, and we've got them all. Because I may need these pitchers as SP2s on DK. As I'm looking, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not that enthralled. Let's continue along here. Let's get to a real game. And here, not that this one isn't real, but Miami and the Washington Nationals. Now I've got some interest. Now I've got some stuff to talk about here. So looking at Sandy Alcantara, of course, the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner. He is a good pitcher, but he's not a frontline DFS starter or DFS ace because he doesn't get the strikeouts. And that is a challenge because strikeouts are the currency of the realm in DFS for baseball. But let's see, over his last 12 starts, 3.22 ERA. That's good. 4.3 FIP. Okay, he's been a little bit lucky. A 250 batting average against. All right, that's fine. Nothing bad. He does have 4 different multi-home run efforts in this game. So he's allowed multiple home runs 4 of the 12 times. However, he also has 2 complete games and another 8-inning shutout on there. So we're getting a good chance at a quality start every time he takes the mound. He's going against the Nationals that really, they don't have I'm kind of a Nationals fan these days. My fandom is waning just a little bit as most of my favorite players have aged out. But I've never heard of Drew Milas, Jacob Young, or Jake Alou, or Travis Blankenhorn. Literally never heard of them until this morning when I was looking at them. That is not much of a lineup. So all of a sudden, Sandy Alcantara went from being, okay, I think we're going to anoint him probably the best pitcher on the slate, to, wow, I want to be above the field. Is that faulty logic? Is that, do you see risk inherent with that? Because this is a bad lineup by the Nationals, very inexperienced.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad lineup for sure. I'm with you there. Alcantara has been a lot more unpredictable this season than he was last year when he won the Cy Young. Obviously he hasn't been as good. They were limiting him early on in the season. As you mentioned, though, he's thrown a couple complete games. The lineup here definitely bumps him up. Washington is not a team that strikes out. We'll have to see how these new guys affect that. They're generally, and their top hitters, Abrams, Thomas, Ruiz, don't really strike out. So, it's not like the most lethal top of the lineup, but it's not an easy matchup strikeout wise. There's no pitcher on this slate that I feel great about. So I do think that you could make the case that Alcantara is the top guy. You probably feel most warm and fuzzy rostering him over anyone else, considering the Nationals lineup, who he is. You don't really see him getting blown up in this spot. So I get it. I don't think he's a must play because he's expensive, but price doesn't really matter that much. You can make it work. And I completely understand why the lineup that Washington threw out bumps him up, just because he was already in that mix before we knew the Washington lineup. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it just all of a sudden it's becoming a more comfortable click there. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I almost closed us out. That would have been dangerous if I closed out StreamYard. So Oops. Good thing it has a little fail-safe thing that says, "Are you sure you want to close this tab?"
Yeah.
It's like, no. All right. So turning things around to the Marlins side here, you've got Josiah Gray on the mound, kind of all over the place with his results. Actually, you know what? He could actually, his best case scenario would be turning into Sandy Alcantara with maybe a little bit more strikeouts. He's done a decent job of cutting down his home runs, but he's still not a lockdown pitcher by any stretch. How are you feeling about him? Because we only have 14 pitchers in our player pool here, and a couple of them we're definitely not going to want. How are you feeling about Gray in this matchup? Over his last 600 batters faced, he has just a 20% strikeout rate, down from last year when he was closer to 24.
Big down from last year. He was like a strikeout pitcher last year, allowing prototypical strikeout pitcher that allowed a lot of home runs.
Yes.
He is not nearly as much of a strikeout pitcher anymore, but he's not allowing nearly as many home runs. The problem is, especially lately, he's walking way too many guys. He's putting too many guys on base. And when you don't have like the strikeout stuff to kind of erase that, it becomes just like a guy that I don't really want to play. Like, I get it on this slate because there aren't that many pitching options. He's second to last in our top pitcher tool, though. Like, he's coming in with high leverage, the most leveraged pitcher on the slate, only 1% ownership. But it's hard to make a rational case for him right now. Like, even in his good start that he's had recently against the Yankees, he got the win there, I'm pretty sure. And he walked 5 guys. He only struck out 4. Like, he went 6 innings with a win and only got you 15 DK points. Like, I don't know. 15 would be fine for this slate, but I'm not paying 7,600 for like around that as his upside right now. Again, sure, he could, strike out more guys today, but it's not like the easiest matchup in the world. It's not a bad matchup. Just kind of a matchup, especially without Soler in there. But I think Miami bats look much better than Gray here, just from an on-paper perspective.
All right. So where would you compare Gray to Miley and Suarez?
I'd compare him with those guys. Like,
okay.
I think Suarez is the best DFS pitcher out of all of them right now, like by far, but he's on the pitch count. So, talk about the unknown. Now, maybe that pitch count's 90, who knows? But again, just it's not like he's impervious to getting hit also. So he doesn't have the length leeway in there. I think those guys are very comparable, and our top pitcher tool says that they're all within 8 to 10%, basically 9 to 10% of being a top 2 pitcher. You can throw Oviedo in that mix, even Tyler McGill. So like those 5 guys look very, very similar, with Gray getting the least amount of ownership and the Marlins getting a lot of ownership. So with that said, I get it in tournaments like 150 max. Get over the field, get 5% Gray instead of 1%. But he's not a guy I'm looking in like single entry stuff.
All right, I'm just looking to see if he has faith. He's got 109. The Marlins have 109 plate appearances against him. 312, 390, 523, triple slash. Let's see, 9 extra base hits in 110 at bats. It's kind of normal. He has 28 strikeouts in that, so it's nothing scary. However, what is different here is some of that Garrett Hampson, Jacob Stallings, Joey Wendell. They're not, well, Wendell's in the lineup and Stallings is, but they're the 8 and 9 hitters today. If you're stacking Miami, do you extend through the top 6?
Probably. I mean, I think you can even throw Stallings in there just because catcher. Yeah, for sure. Their lineup is weaker without Soler, but also makes it cheaper. So let me pull it up real quick.
Josh Bell in a Remember Me game.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I think you can make the case for actually all 9 guys because the top 6 look relatively good. Against Gray, they're all either good hitters or have upside with power. Birdie and Wendell, not so much, but they're shortstops. They're both cheap. Wendell's close to the minimum, so I get that. And then Stallings is not good, but he's a catcher and he's 2,200. So, like, the full back here, especially on the road, getting 9 at bats. Like, I wouldn't be afraid to use like the bottom of the order, knowing that the top guys are certainly preferred.
All right. Let's maneuver on here. We'll go to our next game. First, I want to remind everybody how you can get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. That would be the Stochastic Avatar promotion. Go to stochastic.com/avatar. Download the Stochastic Avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice. And if you finished first, second, or third, top 3, like if it's a 50-way tie for first, that doesn't count. You got to finish top 3, no ties in any field that has at least 5,000 players in it. No entry. No entry fee minimum. Could even be, wait for it, a free roll. If you win a free roll with more than 5,000 people in it, I'll make sure you get 30 days of Stochastic. But you got to have the avatar in the shot with your win. Tweet that to Stochastic HOF over there on X, formerly known as Twitter. Is that how we're going to have to call Twitter now? X, formerly known as Twitter.
I still haven't updated it on my phone. I still have it as Twitter. I just haven't updated it in months. I can't do it. All right. Let's not get derailed, Eric. Let's not get derailed. But if you follow those steps, you'll get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. It's a lot of fun. Get on here behind the paywall. And of course, you're going to get a shout out on Lofty's Hall of Fame segment as well. And we celebrate all wins, large and small, even if you don't meet the qualifications for this, but you're proud of a win or have a good day. Send those tweets as well. It's a lot of fun. I like to celebrate the community here. Hit the like button, subscribe, the usual, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the Stochastic Podcast Network. You guys are going to want to fire that up because NFL is perfect for the Stochastic Podcast Network because the NFL content has a longer shelf life. So you get all the NFL strategy shows throughout the week. Those are good to listen to as we head into week 1 here, especially as we head into week 1, because you got to relearn which players are on which teams, especially if you haven't been doing any best ball drafts. But back to baseball. Game number 3 here, George Kirby going against the Mets. Tyler McGill is on the mound for the Mets. 5.1 implied run total here for Seattle. That's pretty solid there. Would you be playing McGill under any circumstances today? Yeah, I think there are circumstances to play McGill. I don't think he's like a great play, but pitching on this slate sucks. He's 6,300. I like Zach Thompson specifically because our tools like Zach Thompson a lot, but like, I'm not going to be absolutely surprised if McGill, outscores Zach Thompson. Both these guys are unknown. McGill pitched really well his last time out against Texas. Like, not taking too much into that. I like the Seattle side a lot here, so I'm not personally using McGill, but there are, to answer your question, yeah, there are scenarios I could see using McGill. I don't think he's like a bad play if you're not playing Seattle. He's risky for sure, but all the pitchers on this slate are pretty much.
That's a good jumping off point here. We got a super chat here from DFS Dope Strategies asking who the top 2 pitchers are for cash. One, we talked about Sandy Alcantara. We're going to get to the other one here. I had George Kirby on my short list. He's been pretty good. Does a great job of limiting walks. Got bounced from his last start. I think he came down with an illness, if I remember. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. I was in Mexico, so I was only slightly.
Here's a question for you, though. Because I don't play cash at all. I get why Sandy is a cash game pitcher for you, but he's not one of the 2 highest owned pitchers right now, at least that we have projected. He's 4th. We have Skubal and Gray coming in both at 33%. Would you get off, like just picking your brain, would you get off one of them to play Alcantara, or would you just play the ownership?
So very good question. So I'm not playing cash games today. It's too hard because I'm on up to the show, so I'm just doing tournaments. But yesterday, of course, I like to play the large field single entry double ups on DraftKings. Yesterday, I made a couple conscious decisions because I could tell most people were going with Hunter Brown. I went with, I'm already forgetting David Peterson. All right, well, neither one of those guys did very well. I went with Snell, but then
pitcher did well, but Snell.
Yes, and then I knew I was going to be different somewhat, and probably got about a 50% ownership discount by going to Peterson. But I looked at the first base position and the third base position. And like we talked about yesterday, I said I did not like Vladimir Guerrero. And Vladimir Guerrero was projecting out for like 12 DK points up to 14 on most sites. That's a lot. I went with Tristan Casas and Rafael Devers. Few people, probably about a third of the field was on Devers, but hardly anybody was on Costas, maybe 16%. I will make different changes like that.
Okay.
And that's something and so kind of for the pitching, the answer is I try to pick the pitchers I really want. Scooble's a no-brainer for me today. Hopefully he has a good game now. Alcantara's the other guy because I don't want him to go negative. And
I get it.
I would.
It's not like he's unowned. He's
correct.
Just less owned than Gray. Like when it shakes out, they could easily all be comparable.
And that's the thing. And if I have questions about a pitcher, I don't mind going to somebody else that's going to be less owned. If it's someone like Alcantara, only because he's got the decent pedigree and the matchup. Sure. And for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm willing to do that. And then that salary difference is going to force me on a couple different hitters. And then I love when I have a unique lineup in these things because you'll see tons of trends because the people run the two most popular optimal lineups basically. And it's even in baseball, it's like, well, why are we doing that in baseball? I get it for basketball. I understand it for football. I don't like cash games in those because I hate the overlap. I love baseball for these because it's a thinking man's game now. And I think I can beat the field more often on that. I think I've got like a 65% or so win rate in these double ups so far this season. And I probably play them. I've probably played 80 slates, maybe. I don't play it every day. And if I think it's going to be a heavily overlapped thing, like sometimes when you're on Coors and there's like a certain two pitchers and it's just like, I don't want to do a 2v2. I like when I have like a 5v5 against most players. And that's just how I approach it. And this is getting into our little strategy conversation a little bit here, even though it's live before lock, but we only have, a handful of games today. So for me, I think those are the top four pitchers that you mentioned, but without hesitation, I'm going Alcantara and Skubal. They'll be my two highest owned pitchers in tournaments. So I would think I'll have both of them at least around 40% today. So they would for sure be my two cash players.
I get it.
All right. Back to Kirby. So he's kind of in the short list of tournament options. Does he get enough strikeouts against a Mets lineup that the back half is questionable? But against the Mets lineup here, is he going to get enough? Can he create enough strikeouts, or is he going to have to get Vogelbach and DJ Stewart every time they come up if he wants to get strikeouts today? That's my biggest concern about Kirby. Great pitcher, but his fantasy production is all over the place because of his inconsistent strikeout stuff.
He's one of the best strike throwers in baseball, so I think if you're playing Kirby here,
but
playing him
strike throwers.
No, not strikeout guy.
Not strikeout.
Right? Walk guys.
Yeah, you watch him and you're like, God, this guy's so good. And then you're like,
yeah,
what? He only had 5 strikeouts today? What the hell? He was ahead in the count almost every batter, right?
He's a guy that if you play him, you're hoping he goes deep in the game. I mean, you need him to because he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Now, he often goes deep into games because he throws a lot of strikes. So he doesn't walk anyone. He has a lot of short counts. He's in play on this slate just because, as I've mentioned, like there aren't clear-cut options in my eyes. So every pitcher except for a couple are reasonable options. His ownership is right in line with Sale, Alcantara, Thompson, Kirby. So I think he belongs like in that group considering where his price is. I don't love the spot. We've talked about it though. The back half of this Mets lineup is trash right now. So at least you have that going for you. If you can get by the front half, there are some strikeouts and just not good hitters in that bottom half. So I think Kirby, like talent-wise right now, is the second. Him and Skubal are like behind Alcantara for me. Sale is a big unknown, but like on a talent play, Maeda's up there too. But at a talent play, I think Kirby's fine, but I don't love the matchup and he's expensive, so he's not a priority.
Okay. How about the Mariners' offense here?
I personally like
Teoscar Hernandez against lefties. Did we not mention that on the show yesterday? He just has some sick numbers against lefties over the last 2 seasons. How are you feeling about the Mariners today?
I like Seattle here. They, don't look quite as good as Boston, but the ownership's not quite as high as Boston either. Yeah, I think their whole lineup looks good. This is a team that will run a little bit. They've got power. Their ownership is right in line with their top stack percentage. You're getting the 9 at bats here. It's a park upgrade. It's not a great park for hitting, but it's a park upgrade for them from Seattle. So I like Seattle here like a lot. Like I view them, I see them and Detroit are about the same in top stack percentage. Like give me Seattle all day. I know that picking on Kopech is in form right now or whatever you want to call it, but Seattle's just a much better offense with much more home run upside. So I do like Seattle quite a bit here.
All right.
And Vogue is what I meant to say.
In Vogue. Yes. Never going to get it.
Not the 80s R&B group.
Half the chat is not going to.
I know.
Let's see here. Give me 2 home run calls from this game, either side.
Man, I'm going to go right back to Teoscar. Yeah, prefer him against lefties, but he's on fire. I mean, he's been hot since the beginning of August, and he's notoriously crushed righties. So I'm going to take Teoscar. I'm going to go both from the Seattle side. I'm going to go Mike Ford.
Ooh, okay. That's a little spicy. I like
less chance of being pinch hit for because France is out. Now, if the lefty comes in late, he'll probably get pinch hit for, but good matchup against McGill. Spicy, why not?
All right, on to our next game here. You mentioned Scooble. I've mentioned Scooble. We're going to talk about the Motor City Kitties. First hitting on Scooble. Of course, he missed the first portion of the year recovering from injury, but he is back in his last 5 starts. He has 28.2 innings, 32 strikeouts, only 3 home runs, allowed 3.5 ERA, 1.1 whip. All good numbers there. Over the last 30 days, Chicago, not good. Not good on offense. Tim Anderson used to be so good against lefties. He's essentially in a 2-year slump. This year, he has a 104. Yes, .104 ISO in 172 plate appearances against lefties. That means no extra base hits. Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, they're good. But did we end up with Oscar Colas in the lineup? Because I'm going to besmirch his good name. Trace Thompson. That's a little bit of a surprise. Well, I guess that makes sense that he's in there. But you still have Oscar Colas, Corey Lee, Elvis Andrus. Those guys are just not great. Although Elvis Andrus probably had the best month of his career centered around that Coors Field trip that the White Sox had. But he's someone that we good glove still, but he's never really been a great offensive player. So Lennon Sosa is not in the lineup. But we're looking at a lot of rookies here. A lot of not so good hitters other than Robert and Jimenez. I love Scooble. How is he going to break our hearts?
I mean, I don't think he will, but like our top pitcher tool has a couple guys ranked. Like he's getting too much ownership based on the top pitcher tool. If you want like a negative against him, he's 4th in our top pitcher tool. He's getting actually slightly less ownership than John Gray, but like basically the same. He's my favorite pitcher on the slate, though. He's too cheap for his strikeout upside. This White Sox lineup is not good. You mentioned Tim Anderson. He has fallen off a cliff. He's actually got good numbers against school, but it doesn't even matter. Like, could he do something today? Sure, but certainly don't expect it. I like Scooble a lot here. He's my favorite pitcher on the slate, price considered. I view him like similarly as I do Alcantara, Kirby, Sale, and he's the cheapest. So give me all of Scooble.
All right. This dovetails in with William Westry. He's a 4-month member here at Stochastic. He's sent in his monthly membership super chat there. He's asking, who is your favorite pitcher on FanDuel today for tournaments? Is it going to be Scooble?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm curious if Scooble's going to make it there for you.
Kevin for FanDuel.
Yeah,
I think it's easily Kevin Gausman. Yeah,
okay.
I think it's Gausman for sure. Scooble's like more expensive, tough spot for Gausman, but I mean Colorado's not good, and he's by far the best DFS pitcher on the slate. So I do think it's Gausman. You could make the case to go to like Zach Thompson, I think, just because there is Toronto bats to spend up for. So I think here I'm either going all the way up to Gausman or to Thompson, who also grades out very well on our top pitcher tool.
Yeah, Thompson coming in as the best point per dollar play on FanDuel right now has we're kind of splitting hairs. The top 7 pitchers are between 7 and 10% of being the best pitcher. So, all right, well, but Gaussman is just he is unlikely to get. I think at 20% ownership is a little bit high. I'd be surprised if he gets up that high, only because this game isn't on the DK slate. If people are playing multiple sites, like all of a sudden, do I really want a pitcher in Coors Field? They'll talk themselves out of it. Gaussman is on the short list of Cy Young Award candidates this year. So I would probably end up going Gaussman, I guess. If that game wasn't on the slate for me, it'd be Skubal. But I think Gaussman is the right answer for Mr. Westry there.
I do too.
All right. Do you want to talk about how bad Michael Kopech has been? Do you want me to do it? Did you know he was a first round selection in the 2014 draft out of high school? That was a long time ago. In his last 12 games, 6.62 ERA, his FIP, fielding independent pitching, so it neutralizes defense, 8.11. That's horrible. He has pitched 50.1 innings. How many walks do you think he has in his 50.1 innings?
Way too many. That's like his big problem.
51. He has a walk per inning in his last 12 starts. Ladies and gentlemen, the Motor City Kitties. I featured them today. They made my headline in the article. Clearly, I'm overly biased on this. Talk some sense into us here, because I even said, usually when I bring up Detroit, it's like they're a good secondary stack. You can use them as a main stack today. Field's going to get there, though, I think. And that
Field's going to get there.
A little bit. Yeah.
I think they won the slate last night. I mean, all of a sudden, especially with the emergence of Spencer Torkelson, like lineup is more formidable than it's been. No Riley Green hurts. I still don't think this lineup is, anything too special. Kopech hasn't been good. I think you're playing Detroit just to play against Kopech. Detroit hasn't been bad either, so that helps. The ownership's there, though. Like, I don't know. I mentioned it when I talked about Seattle. I think Detroit's in a good spot, but I like the chances. Like, when Seattle goes off, I think they do it in a more DFS-friendly way than when Detroit does. So, like, between those two teams, I prefer Seattle, but I do think Detroit works as one-offs, mini stacks, or full stacks. Again, Torkelson has added an element of power to this lineup that they haven't necessarily had. He's having actually a really good year. He's expensive, so maybe that keeps his ownership down. Like, I get why you like Detroit. The ownership is already there, though, so it's not my favorite team in tournaments. I do like them as like one-offs and fill-ins, though.
Yeah, it does. It gets a little tricky there on DK, where they have $5,000 for Torkelson, $4,600 for Carpenter, Akil Baddoo. Batting leadoff, banished to minors not once but twice this year. He's a Rule 5 selection. I finally cut him from my dynasty league, and yet here he is, 2 stolen bases in the last 2 days, and he's batting leadoff again today. So, wow. Would you play Kopech at all, or would you take him out of the player pool?
I probably wouldn't take him out of the player pool, just for the simple fact, relying mostly on our tools is like the main source. Our tools don't hate him at all. I mean, he's got an 11% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 11% ownership. He's cheap. He's got strikeout upside. I think you can definitely make a case for him in tournaments. I wouldn't take him out of my pool. He's not a guy I'm using. I hope it's just like a medium outcome for him and Detroit doesn't go off, but I don't think he's like out of the realm at all. His strikeout upside at that price point is high, and there aren't great pitchers on this slate. So even if he does get hit up a little bit, I mean, we saw it last night. Usually it doesn't play out like that, but the winning lineup in like the 5-5-5 had Drew Rom and his 1 point last night. 1 point, excuse me. So yeah, that's how it shook out last night. I could see a similar, like with the pitchers going today, I could see a similar scenario like shaking out. I don't expect it, but I could see it.
All right. True, Ron. Ugh. Just ugh. Anything else from this game?
No, not really. I mean, the White Sox bats aren't really in play for me at all. So no thanks.
All right. Hey, everybody, let's talk about how you can get $250. You can do this by joining Caesars Sportsbook. I'm going to drop this link into chat, but if you come in on this link, create an account at Caesars Sportsbook and make a $50 wager, they will give you immediately a $50 bonus bet. And then each of the next 4 Mondays, they're going to give you another $50 bonus bet. So you're betting $50 to get $250. You're gonna likely win one of your bets if you play it smart. So this is a pretty good deal. Even if you played 5 favorites, you're coin flipping on the with spreads, you should still win one of them. So you should be able to clear some money in this one. So check that out. Caesar Sportsbook, a lot of fun. Some states I found it's easier for me to type in. I finally saved it in my browser, but it's the William Hill is their sportsbook. But when you type in Caesars, you get all the Caesars hotels, Caesars rewards, all these other things. So come in on our link here, get in there, save that in your browser, and then join Caesars. Have a little bit of fun. Reminder, if you or anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But it's a pretty good deal there. Pretty good deal. Let's continue meandering here. It's nice not to have to race through this slate. We've got 3 more games on DK. We'll hit the Colorado game since that is on FanDuel. But here we are, Boston against the Royals. Taylor Clark in front of Zach Greinke. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. But Greinke, people forget how good Greinke was. So he's in year 20 of his career. He actually won the Cy Young in 2009 before DFS. He has finished top 7 in the Cy Young voting 5 different times. He's made 5 All-Star games. He's got 6 Gold Glove awards. He even won a Silver Slugger in his last season in the National League when they were still using pitchers as hitters when he was with Arizona. But it's all smoke and mirrors at this point. He's been effective throughout his career. This is his worst, by far his worst season, and he still has a 3.5 career ERA. I'm still taking Boston, but he could finesse his way into allowing 4 runs, 5 runs, but not any extra base hits. That's my biggest fear with Boston and Greinke. But otherwise, this feels like full steam ahead again. Not as good as a matchup as it was against Marsh yesterday, but still pretty good for Boston.
I mean, at the end of the day, hitting baseballs is hard. So,
they're so small.
Pitcher, they're so small and they're throwing so fast. So, there are plenty of scenarios where this shakes out where Boston doesn't, isn't the top stacker, isn't the team you want at all. Just to touch on Greinke real quick. Yeah, it's funny how these pitchers fall off so quick. I mean, I want to say 3 years ago, Greinke was a 10K pitcher. When he was with Arizona,
he was an all-star 3 years ago. When he was with
Arizona,
he was an all-star.
High strikeouts, really good pitcher. Not like an elite ace, but a 10K pitcher, consistently. And now he's like, a gas can that you just want to pick on. Reminds me of Matt Cain.
Yes, that's a good comp.
He
just lost it. All of a sudden, he went from throwing high 90s to high 80s.
And Greinke's obviously had a better career than Cain, but Cain was really good in his, in his heyday, I guess, if you will. So just to touch on today, Boston looks great. They have by far the top chance to be in the top stack on the board, almost 18%. The ownership's not even there. It's only at 13%. I do think you could see that, raise up a little bit, especially the top guys are going to be higher owned. It's a great spot. They're on the road, the 9 at-bats, all that. They look great here. They look like the best stack on the board. They don't look like Blue Jays or the Braves and Coors have looked, where you have to do everything you can to get them, but they're not even that expensive. 7% chance to be in the top value stack. They look like the top place to go in cash games, and certainly a risky fade in tournaments. You don't have to play them, but they're the most likely team to succeed.
What do you think about Trevor Story?
He hasn't been great since coming back. I like Story a lot as a DFS player because he does his upside game is 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases. You know what I mean? Like, he runs a lot and he has power. Problem is, he's sitting low in this lineup, and he hasn't shown much since he's come back this year. I think you could see a revival next year from Story.
All right. How are you feeling about Chris Sale?
This is an interesting one. I could not believe when I opened up the tools and I saw he was first in our top pitcher tool. He's now second behind Alcantara. So that lineup has swayed people. Alcantara now getting about 27% ownership. Sale is still second in our top pitcher tool. I'm not, like, on a personal, just watching it, knowing the game, I'm not really buying it, but there's a reason he's second in our tool. So his strikeout upside at this price is undeniable. Hasn't been great the past couple starts, but they were both against Houston. So have to take those with a grain of salt. Much better matchup here. I think Sale is, like, again, our tools have him second overall in the top pitcher tool. So I think that's all that really needs to be said. How do you feel about him?
I'm capping him at 20%.
It's scary to have a lot of Sale.
Yeah, I just did my my caps. I'm gonna go, like I mentioned, 40% Scooble, 40% Alcantara. We'll get to Zach Thompson, but price play, he's coming in. I want to get about 30% of him, and then
he's the Peterson play from last night.
Basically. And I'm actually going to go under the field on John Gray, which is going to be interesting. I've got him at 20% cap. I'll hit it, but that's probably my biggest fear, is him having a really good game. So Sale is, you're right. 2 tough matchups against Houston, but he didn't do anything against the Nationals.
No, he didn't. He didn't look great in that start either.
No, but he does have 15 strikeouts. He had 15 strikeouts in 9 2/3 innings against Houston. I mean, that's not for nothing. That's pretty good.
I will say, if you look at all the pitchers on this slate, Alcantara included, if you told me one of these guys goes 6 innings with 11 Ks, it's Sale. Like, no one else even considered in that. I mean, Kopech maybe, but that's going to be really, really rare. Sale is that guy. So I do think he's got the highest upside of any pitcher on the slate, especially at that price.
Yeah, I just bumped him to 30%. Those strikeouts they're hard to come by on this slate.
Exactly.
And he better bet. Could this go sideways? Of course it could. It's baseball. Do I feel good about this? No, I don't. But I mentioned it. We need strikeouts. Currency of their own. Got to have them. Here's a way to get them. So, talking through it, I've now increased my Chris Sale. I'm going to now hit crunch and see where this stuff shakes out. Not to bury the lead, it's going to be in the low 90s throughout this game. There's a stiff breeze, 10 to 15 miles an hour, going out to left center. So it is good hitting weather, but it's the Royals. What any of Royals scare you outside of Bobby Witt? Maybe the zombie form of Salvador Perez, who didn't he lead the league in home runners or something 2 years ago? I forget what it was.
He led catchers last year in home runs.
Is that what it was?
He led the AL in home runs last year, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
COVID
has I have COVID brain in that all these sports seasons that got postponed and then compressed, it's messed up my point of references. It feels like the Nationals just won the World Series. That was 2019. I think it was a long time.
Yeah, that was a while ago at this point.
So back to the Royals. Would you do a stack against Sale? Do you think he's has the ability to spontaneously combust?
When I first looked at this slate, I was interested in the Royals a little bit, but after looking at our tools, my interest has waned a lot, simply because we have Sale really high and the Royals really low. So it's a small slate. I don't hate it. They've got desirable bats at tough positions to fill, Witt and Perez. I do like those two, especially Perez. He's cheap. He's got power. He's seen Sale a ton in his career. So I do like Perez at the catcher spot. He's just got big power upside at 4,400. So that's a guy I'm interested in as a one-off, but not really in Royal stacks as a whole.
All right, a couple more games here. Pittsburgh and St. Louis. You've got Johan Oviedo, who I was all ready to say bad things about, and then I looked at his last game. He had a complete game. I somehow missed that. Again, I was not in the country, so not following things that closely. But wow, that was impressive. You've got Zach Thompson on the other side here, $5,600, intriguing price play on DraftKings. If I was going to rank, and we haven't done this in all the games, but this is a good one to kind of rank the four sides. I'm going to say Cardinals offense 1, Zach Thompson 2, surprisingly Oviedo 3, and then it's the Pittsburgh offense. Pittsburgh just has so many inexperienced players, and then the likes of Connor Joe and Miguel Andujar are just they're serviceable veterans, but that's their 3 and 4 hitter or their 4 and 5 hitter. That's no great shakes there. What you mentioned Thompson a little earlier. Did you look? What are your highlights for him, good or bad?
My highlights for Thompson is that he's 5,600 on the slate without pitching options, and he's facing Pittsburgh. I mean, it is basically the exact same as Peterson for me last night. And our tools love him. He's the third guy in our top 2 pitcher tool. Like, he's got a 44% chance of being a top value pitcher, a top 2 value. Like, that's crazy. On a slate where I'm not scared of basically any of these top guys like going out and breaking the slate. Could it happen? Sure, it can always happen. But like, I don't project any of these guys for like crazy amount of DFS points. And Thompson, yeah, I project him for less, but at his price point, like, he's by far the top dollar for dollar play. I mentioned how I like the Phillies earlier on. They're expensive. Thompson really works there. The ownership isn't too crazy. Like, just a lot of things are working his way here. That doesn't mean that, he's going to pitch well, because if he were 8K here, I would have no interest, and that doesn't affect how he's going to pitch today. But given the matchup, the price point, the other options, I think he looks like one of the best, pitchers on the slate, which is scary to say.
It is. But here we are. All right. What about the Cardinals offense here?
Cardinals offense, we talked about it yesterday. They haven't been bad this year. Like, they haven't been elite, but it's been their pitching staff that's mostly let them down. Oviedo's been pretty good. He just saw this Cardinals team and was decent against them 2 starts ago. I do think that they're in play here. They're 5th in our top stack tool, 6th, 8% chance of being the top stack, 7% ownership. I like that. I don't, they're not like a priority for me in like small entry stuff, like with, 3-4 entry max type stuff. But in 150 max, I'd probably want to be over the field just because this is another team with power. And, Oviedo has shown the propensity to get hit hard when he doesn't have his ace stuff.
Yeah, Lars Nootbaar leading off looks really intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 4,500, Goldie's 53, Nolan Gorman is 42, and Nolan Arenado is 52. That's pretty expensive. But if you get you pair them with their pitcher, all of a sudden you got a nice little stack there, 5-man, if you will. Let's see. We will continue on here. The last game for DK, Minnesota Twins at Texas. Roof likely to be closed today. I'll confirm that in just a second. You've got Kenta Maeda going against the Rangers. Never a fun spot, though. Maeda is the kind of pitcher that could probably limit the Rangers to 4 or 5 runs, which is pretty good going against that all-star type offense. John Gray on the other side, I am ending up with him. He's hitting my cap at 25%. So I have less than the field, but I'm getting a fair amount of him. Talk about the pitchers here. Por favor.
2 good pitchers in this game. Not great spots for either of them. It's interesting to me that Maeda he's more expensive than Gray. He's 9K. Gray is 8,100. Maeda has an 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Gray's at 16, and Gray's getting like 3.5 times the ownership that Maeda's getting. So I actually think in tournaments I like Maeda more. Texas offense just hasn't been elite lately. That said, I don't love either pitcher. I don't love Gray because the ownership's already there. I don't really get it, to be honest. And our top pitcher tool bears that out. He's 7th in our top pitcher tool, getting the most ownership on the slate. Like, why. I get that Minnesota strikes out a lot, but they've also got power. I happen to really like Max Kepler today as a one-off. I mean, I get it in the sense that he has strikeout upside. I don't get it in the sense that for me, when I look at this slate, he doesn't jump out at me, and our tools don't love him either. So this is a no-brainer fade as far as I'm concerned.
Is it like I'm getting like less than 5% stacks of either team, and that even includes 3-man stacks?
Well, Texas is really like the guys you want are still, they're like the high. Seager's might be the highest hitter on the highest price hitter
6,600. That's like Coors Field, not facing Cincinnati.
It's really hard to stack them, even prioritize them. Yeah. Like I like the idea of getting to a little, Simeon and Seager if you can. Like the stack Thompson lineup helps them, but only as one-offs, 2-man stack, not the full stack. I respect Maeda also.
Yeah. Oy. All right. Oof. Trying to stack. I'm building out some 4-man stacks here of the White Sox. It's kind of hard to. I don't want anybody besides Robert and Eloy Jimenez.
He's out today, Robert.
Is he?
Oh, that's what you were saying. Yeah, he's out today.
Did I screw?
He was out last night too. That was the other.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. That's where the Trace Thompson came in. I didn't make that connection. I'm sorry.
I usually don't care about one hitter really in a lineup for a bet for my pitcher, but this one matters. Like
it does.
Their lineup stinks. He crushes lefties, and he's not in the lineup. So he's the one guy I think in their lineup you could say is better than Skubal.
I would agree. I think that's a fair assessment there. Shoot. Well, no wonder it was not coming up very nicely there for me. All right. So did I screw that up and not take him out of my? Nope, I got him out of my player pool. Okay, there we go. Fix that. All right. Let's do the Colorado game for those dabbling on FanDuel, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the stochastic tools here. So, and home runs and all that fun stuff. But lead us through the Rockies here. You got Kevin Gausman and Chase Anderson. Talk about dichotomy there.
Yeah, I don't know where Chase Anderson's been, but he's not good. Obviously, awful ballpark. Toronto looks like the top stack on the board on FanDuel by a lot. The only reason that you wouldn't play Gausman in my mind is to just jam them in because they are expensive. You can only play 4 of them no matter what. Like it changes the FanDuel slate completely because you have the best pitcher and the best offense. I think you want as much Gausman and as much Toronto as you can get. Toronto's been in really good spots the past couple of days. This is probably the best spot they've been in. I do prefer them against lefties, but they've been good in cores. I mean, maybe they're a little bit less owned than they should be because of the fact they're only on the FanDuel slate. I have a feeling people will only play FanDuel just to play them though. So, yeah. I mean, I'm happy they're not on the DK slate. It changes things a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point of where I was saying they may not get to Gausman, but yeah, hitters. Yeah, Toronto's going to be so popular today. So popular. What do you got for home run calls? As I get ready to upload my lineups here.
I'm going to go Nick Castellanos.
Nick Castellanos. Okay. I better go look and see. I don't think I ended up with hardly any Philly. Maybe I should make a quick Castellanos stack here. For me, I am going to say Jazz Chisholm.
Respect that.
On the late slate, wrote up Yandy Diaz going against Xavier Curry. Your Guardians.
I know we're going to talk about the tools, but I just wanted to. Are you going to talk about the NFL DFS sims?
Well, while I'm uploading, can you mention that just a little bit here? We have two NFL sim packages. The max package that gets you literally everything for NFL, and it includes the sims, and then the weekly package. But you want to throw out your thoughts on why sims being available to the average gamer is really going to change NFL this year. You don't want to be left behind.
You've already seen it start changing MLB, especially in the big contests. The sims are where you need to be at. certainly if you're like 150 maxing, even if you're not. The link is in the description so you guys can check it out. As you mentioned, there's a Sims data package and the Sims Max package. You get more with the Max package, obviously, kind of self-explanatory. So again, encourage everyone to check it out in the description section of the video. There are no better tools in the industry. It's almost like I remember those old Hair Club for Men commercials. I'm sure you know this. Like, I'm not just the president. That's how I feel.
I'm also a member or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly. I'm the biggest proponent of the tools because I know they work. And just like the En Vogue reference, 2/3 of the audience isn't even going to get the Hair Club for Men's reference.
No. They're like, what? There's a club about hair? So actually, this is a good dovetailing. You are using the Sims now, correct?
Well, yeah, I don't
personally.
I don't like max enter 150. I'm not a 150
right.
maxer, so it's not as pertinent for me. But yeah, I look at that stuff all the time.
So we're going to have several shows dedicated to how to utilize the Sims, etc. That's coming up for football. Football, I think it's going to be a little bit easier to utilize them. I don't use them as much for baseball because it's just a function of time. I've got a day job, I'm doing content, and I'm playing. And I'm not 150 maxing in the giant contests. I'm playing more in the leagues and other things where I don't.
Baseball's more of a thinking's man game, like you said. Also,
yeah. But for basketball, I'm excited for them, and I'm really excited for them for football because football, I like showdowns. But the main slates, I have not had good success the last 2 years on main slate football. I don't seem to do. It doesn't. I've been losing the last 2 years, which prior to that was a winning sport for me. So I'm looking to see how the Sims work for me. So that's something I'm very excited to see here. But you guys can check that out. We've got some articles. The links are there. There's some articles on the landing page talking about them. We've got some shows. If you go look at Greg Ehrenberg's Twitter, he breaks down a YouTube video kind of describing everything that comes in these packages. He posted that last night. I think it's even pinned on his thing. He uses these exclusively and has had great success. You've seen Josh, Adam, etc. do that. Steve Buzzard had his best stretch towards the end of NBA, beginning of MLB, where he won like $500,000 in 8 slates or something crazy
Tom
like
Kennedy
that.
Has been smashing.
Tom's been quietly getting 50K wins, just racking
every
them up.
night. I got second like last night or the night before. I know that, not a big deal, just another 20.
Yeah, and then by the way, that's our CEO and chief financial guys that are using these. So, and 2 of the best gamers out there. So, it's definitely worth your while. But let's look at in the prices. We've moved it to be as affordable as we can and still make it so not everybody has it. But for football, I think it's going to be worth it. I understand there's many ways to skin a cat in baseball, but football, I think you're really going to like it. Let me share the screen here for our lineup generator. Now that's something I do use here. So hopefully it is loaded. Let me share the screen here, but this is for our baseball one. So we support the main slates. It's a resource intensive tool. So we just focus on whatever DK or FanDuel says their main slate is, but you can do this on either site. Let's click on DK. You can choose your stack types, 5-3, 5-0, 4-4 on DK. You can do 4-4, 4-3, and 4-2-2 on FanDuel. We're going to say, let's do 5-0. And let's look at some contrarian lineups today. You can lock in your favorite pitcher, and you can lock in one hitter. Let's lock in Devers. Hopefully I did that correctly. So you can see here, it's going to start cranking some of these things out. This one likes the Mariners. Here you can see it's closer to contrarian, right? So this rates things for you. We look at the projection. It's very good projection. It's going to be a top projected lineup there, and then you can see the overall ownership, the overall points, etc. We like that. We can hit save. We can click save on a few of these. I don't like that one. We can hit discard. Hey, Tyler McGill, I don't want to play him. Let's move him out. Oh, I want to play Thompson in this lineup. Watch, you can just swap them right in. Now we've got Thompson in the lineup. you want to spend your extra $1,000 somewhere else, you totally can. Let's say goodbye to Akil Badu. That means we've got $4,000 here. So we just say, oh, look, there's Eloy Jimenez. We'll take him, right? So we can tweak these things, save that lineup. You can build up to 20 lineups at a time. At any time, you can go click and see what's in your portfolio. You can see we locked in Devers, so he's going to be at 100%, but it keeps track of everybody else for you. You can still further tweak the lineups while they're in this holding pen. And then when you're ready to export them, shoot them out into a CSV, and you can build 20 more. So while you can only build 20 at a time in your holding pen, you could easily still use this to build 20, 100, 200, whatever you want. You can see here where we have our stacks. Half of it is going to be Boston, but you can see Detroit quite popular as well, followed by Milwaukee and Seattle. So that's kind of how it works here. But this is a fun tool to try out and utilize. Promo code SCORE gets you 50% off your first week, and after that it's $8.95. So what this does is it encapsulates and is using a lot of the same programming and information that is in the Sims tool, and that's how it's creating these plus expected value lineups for you. So it's taking into account the synergy, what the field is doing, how are we going to stack, are we making these too chalky, or do I want them balanced, or do I want certain type of stack? It's doing all of that for you. The Sims tool, you have to really think about it. And the biggest mistake people make on the Sims tool is they just put in their lineups and they sim them and they think, oh, these are my best lineups. What it's doing is whatever you load into the Sims tool, it's saying, give me the best lineups of this set of lineups. So if we put in a whole bunch of uncorrelated half-assed lineups, it's going to tell us which ones have the best ROI. And then you put those into a contest and you're going to get your ass kicked. Why? Well, it's just comparing the same thing. So the Sims, you got to start thinking about, what is the field doing? How am I getting the right combination of mixes? That can be a little tricky for baseball, because how do you replicate people doing double stacks and which combinations are they going to have, etc. Basketball, the Sims are going to be a lot easier to handle. Football, you'll have more time, which is the key. You can play with it. It's a little more leisurely. We've got one big slate per week. That's where you're going to want to look at that. But this is wrapping all of that stuff into it, but without you having to choose the setting. And I think that's something people are like, oh, well, the lineup generator. No, the lineup generator is really, really good. This is what Tom and Steve, they've talked about before. They think this is the biggest thing that's going to upset the apple cart in DFS, because this is a cheap price point. It's accessible, and it's making bad gamers into solid gamers. It's making solid gamers into better gamers. The Sims tool, well, if you don't know what you're doing, there's ways you can muck that up pretty quickly. And that's really isolating to the people playing 50 or more lineups. It's a more secular group. Whereas this improves everybody. I mean, my Mama Mac could come in, build 20 lineups off of this, and be relatively competitive. And she's never played fantasy sports in her life. So
it's amazing.
There we are. We are now at lock here. But yeah, get buckle up, everybody, because the NFL is here. We've got these great deals on the sim packages. This is going to be fun. We had a lot of fun yesterday with college football. Got a couple college footballs going on right now. 2 more games today for that. We're going to be back in the golf swing season before you know it. You got UFC. We got everything, man. This is a lot of fun. And then NFL. I mean, we're really not that far. We're 6 weeks away from NFL, or pardon me, NBA. 6 days away from NFL. Six weeks from NBA. It's gonna be fun. Yep. All righty, let's get on out of here. But thank you, everybody, for joining the show. We appreciate you. Hit that like button, and have a happy Sunday. And hopefully nobody has to work on Monday. But with that, gamers, you can follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipMats. I am at EMac DFS. Of course, it is stochastic_COM. Good luck.